Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Wednesday, August 16th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Indiana game is in 17 days. The game against Michigan in 101 days. When that Indiana game kicks off in 17 days, all eyes, or at least many eyes, are going to be on the Ohio State offensive line. That was probably the biggest question mark for this team coming out of spring practice. It was something Ryan Day sort of openly was a little bit concerned about, which is a little unusual. And then you get to the fall and fall camp, and you add a transfer in Josh Simmons from San Diego State. And all of a sudden, the mood and the conversation around the offensive line has been a little different this fall in a good way for Ohio State and its fans. So today you're going to be hearing directly from Ohio State offensive line coach Justin Frye, as well as Carson Hinzman, who is the front runner to win the center job. We get a chance to talk to those guys, as well as many, many other offensive linemen. As always, the offensive line group somehow always ends up being one of the most interesting interview sessions of the fall. So rather than have us regurgitate some stuff to you, I wanted to let you guys hear directly from two of the guys who we got the chance to talk to on Tuesday at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. So let's start with Justin Frye. This is his second season as Ohio State's offensive line coach, and he was facing some real challenges, not all of his own making. He inherited some recruiting issues from the previous offensive line coach. And now Frye, in his second year, has to kind of solve it. You got to just figure it out. Welcome to Ohio State. Welcome to big leagues. You got to figure it out. One of the places where you had to figure it out was at center. That was where Luke Whippler kind of surprised the coaching staff and a lot of other folks by leaving after last season. So now Carson Hinzman, second-year player, Vic Cutler, transfer from Louisiana Monroe. Those two guys are kind of battling it out for that starting center position now this fall. Hinzman seems like he's sort of the front runner right now, but what did the two of those guys do to separate from the rest of the competition to that position? And in this answer, you're going to hear him talk about scarlet guys and gray guys. That's something they're adding. They're just doing right now to just be able to run the same stuff on two different fields at the same time, kind of like a split squad in spring training in baseball, just to try and increase the number of reps that guys can get.
Well, it's the same deal. Like, all those guys are still rolling in there. And it's consistency. Like, you got to stack good days on top of good days. If you're in a controlled situation or a controlled period, and then you go to a team period, you got to be able to go play the game. And we do a good job here trying to give those guys opportunities as we go. And like we said, that really depends on the day of who's on the scarlet and who's on the gray. And I got to look at my script half the time and be like, all right, scarlet guys today, here's how we're going, because we sit and talk through and try to fit those guys in the right places to find our five best.
One of the things that we get in the comments constantly on YouTube videos is when we call Josh Simmons Josh, people say, isn't he supposed to be called Jimmy? And when we call him Jimmy, people say, wait, I thought his name was Josh. So, all right, what's the deal with Josh Simmons and Jimmy?
I call them all. We got a lot of Joshes in our room, right? So, I like mindless, dumb TV when I can. And so, I kind of related that to, The Office. When Michael Scott goes down, I don't know if you guys watch The Office, he goes in the warehouse, and it's Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, right? And it's really, he's down in Daryl Philbin's, but it was Daryl, and then it was Philbin, and then Reed, and then Raj, and it kind of morphed. So I think the Jimmy thing just kind of morphed from, we had a lot of Joshes, and we got a Dilla, we got a Fryer, we got a Simmons. So, in the room, we got the Jimmy there, but he's Josh,
Simmons does want to be called Josh outside of the program. It's just sort of an internal thing when they call him Jimmy, so we're going to be calling him Josh. So Josh Simmons, he was someone who Frye recruited when Frye was the offensive line coach at UCLA. So he knew him from way back when he was in high school. So what did Frye see in Simmons then, and what has allowed Simmons to make an immediate impact now that he's in Columbus?
He's a more mature guy. That's the thing. When you get these guys from the transfer portal, they've known college football. So even with some of those younger guys that came mid-year, they're really still just first-year guys. He's been in a locker room. He's played in college football games. So I think the speed of the game for him is a little slower than an actual rookie. Coming out of high school, it's all the stuff we've talked about. You could watch every interview I've said when you ask about linemen or evaluations, like base, spin, balance, and burst. I felt out of high school he owned those, and then he continued to develop those, and the need opened up with the spot and the fit, and now he's bought into the room. He's bought into the culture. He's around the guys. He works the way you're supposed to. He's still learning, to work some of the ways that he needs to, and he's around a good room of guys that we know how to do that, and so he's bought into that, and I think that's been the easiest transition for him.
Josh Frye went through most of spring ball as the left tackle for Ohio State running with the ones, and the assumption was, okay, he's probably going to be there entering the fall as well. So when Josh Simmons showed up, why did they want to try him at left tackle when Frye had just been there all spring?
It's just all of those guys rolling. We got a lot of tackles that we've been rolling through and finding the best fit of who's best next to each other, who's comfortable in space when we need him to be. Because you got a guy like Josh Frye that played left all spring and it moved over and got a lot of reps there. So you don't know that may not be the case if we need that to be as well. So still really in the thick of it. Like I said, we've got scarlet groups, we've got gray groups. These guys are taking a ton of reps. Mike and I and Coach Philbin and Coach Day and the whole staff, we're evaluating and grading every snap of every guy so that when we tee the ball up versus Indiana, we're playing our 5, 6, 7, 8 best, whatever that may be.
It feels like the starting 5 or the top 5 on the offensive line has been pretty consistent for much of the last week or so. So maybe that's a little bit more settled. The second team, that's where you're hearing a bunch of other names kind of getting shuffled around in different spots. And one of those names you're hearing a lot, really a surprising amount for a true freshman, is Luke Montgomery. He's been running with the 2s at right tackle. So what would it take for Justin Frye to trust a true freshman to be out there in a real meaningful situation this fall?
They've got to be the 5 best and help us go win the game. Treat them like anybody else. If they're ready to do that and ready to play, then you have to feel comfortable in that. I've been involved with major college football, whether as a player, a GA, or as a coach since 2002. And I've had day one true freshman starter up front. It's just hard. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but it's hard. But I've also had guys that have played as true freshmen. So if they're ready and they're able to help you win the game and it's in that fit, then those guys can do that. But like I went back before, you're not time stamping that. Say they have to be ready by now. They're ready when they're ready, and then you just coach them that way.
So we keep hearing his name. So how close is Montgomery to being in that spot where Frye would really trust him, or maybe even being one of the 5 best guys out there?
He's taking a bunch of high-quality reps. All those guys are bad. You got Zinue, you got Tegra, you got him, you got George, you got Josh Simmons, you got Josh Frye. You got guys out there on the edge that are, like I said, you have to ask me, is it a scarlet day or a gray day? And that's who's been with me, who's with Mike, who's going against, JT and Jack one day, who's got Kenyatta one day, who's inside, Caden Curry, whatever that may be. It's a day-by-day evaluation, and that's the best way I know how to do it is press play on the tape, grade the tape, and then as you get closer to that game week, you can really start pegging who your guys are going to be help you win those games.
Montgomery is one of 4 true freshman offensive linemen on this year's team. All those guys were in for the spring, so they got to go through the 15 practices in spring ball, work in the strength program all year. How much has that group improved so far?
Yeah, all those guys they're just more comfortable playing the game. They are more comfortable. It's still scary for a young guy to look across and see Mike Hall over there, because Mike Hall's a really good player. So you've got to trust your technique. You got to trust your fundamentals. Early on, you don't do that. You see Mike Hall and you just say, "Oh crap, I hope I block him." Or now you can let your technique take you home. You can trust the scheme. You can get into it. So all those, honestly, there's guys that came mid-year with Miles and with Austin and with Dilla and with, with Luke. That was highly beneficial for those guys because they've got banked reps now, so they're already a little bit ahead of the curve than a guy who would have got here in June or July.
We hear all the time about Ohio State wanting to find the 5 best offensive linemen. They're going to find the 5 best offensive linemen, and then they're going to find spots for those guys. And it feels like maybe they've sort of landed on their answer there, but they're not ready to make that official yet. But when they talk about the 5 best, how are they defining best? Is this the guys who, when they're playing at their best, they're at that 90th percentile outcome? Is it the guys who are the best when they're at their best? Is it the guys who are at the best at being the most consistent, where just their 50th percentile outcome is better because you don't have the bad, you don't have the great and then the bad. It's just on average these guys are the best. How are they defining what it means to be the 5 best?
I was really bad at math in college. It took me 3 times to pass calculus. So I try to keep it really simple, and we all do as a staff, so that when I go to Coach Day and we talk to Brian as a staff and offensive staff it's all of the above there. Do they grade and make their play? The offensive line position is you're at the POA every time. So if you've got a guy that's a critical position and 3 or 4 times a game he's not making that play or in that practice, the other 70% he may get it done, but it's a little less insignificant versus a guy that at the POA is a little more consistent, and then they're both, though, grading about the same. That's when you really got to kind of look at it as much in depth as you can, but it's not as clean cut as like, well, this guy was 83 and this guy was 75. Because like I said, what was that 75 against versus this 83 on that day? And then there's chemistry, there's communication, there's continuity with guys. Like that's part of it that we have to get into, and we're getting closer. But right now, the competitive, the smart part, and then the toughness is all 3 things that we're really over the top about with Coach Day, and then those are tangible, evaluative things that we're looking at with our guys.
Moving Frye from left tackle to right tackle just a little over a week ago and sliding Simmons in at left tackle. Why make that move? Are they looking for different attributes from the left tackle versus the right tackle?
Both guys have to be really comfortable in space. I think maybe back in the olden days, teams would put their best pass rusher on the blind side of the quarterback, meaning his backside. So that might have been looked into more. But now with matchups, with defensive structures changing where they're putting people, you just got to be really comfortable in space because you're going to be on your own in an island. And then after that, probably a little bit there, but nothing that we hang our hat on more of, like significantly more here versus here.
We spent so much time talking about the offensive line this year, and so little of it has been about the guard positions. Matt Jones, Donovan Jackson, those are guys who are both returning starters for Ohio State, and it feels like they're kind of known quantities at this point and should be really positives for this fall's Ohio State team. But let's talk a little bit about Jackson. He's kind of just been lost in the shuffle with all these other questions facing the team, but now is that he's entering his 2nd season as a starter, is he maybe a little more comfortable now than he was in year 1?
I mean, that's the word, comfort. He's just more comfortable being in a vocal position. There's things where I might see something as a coach that now I want to go up and I could tell the group, but I can just go to Donovan and say, hey, get this fixed. This happened. Here's what it is. That's your job, because on 3rd and 7, I'm not kick sliding next to you. That guy is or that guy is, so you got to go get it fixed. I would say even through the spring up to now, and now when that message happens, it's not like, oh man, I got to go bring some bad news to the guys. He's like, I got it, coach, and then let's go that way. And then the success that you have, that builds confidence there as you're speaking to people, you're leading people, you're driving people, and then now in his play, hey, I'm going to work on this technique here today. And if I mess it up, it's okay because I'm deliberately working on this thing. And then he's polishing that tool and putting it in the toolbox. So I think it's helped him on the field. And then off the field, yeah, we're still growing with that every day, because it doesn't matter if you're a coach, you've been coach for a bunch of years, or you're a kid that's learned how to lead your group. Confrontation's not easy. It's not comfortable. You have to make yourself comfortable with that. And you have to be comfortable being exposed that way, knowing that you might still make a mistake too, but they look at you knowing you're going to get it rectified or corrected. So I think that's where his growth has been off the field the most, and allowing him then on the field to look at it through different lenses and really enhance his skill set schematically and technically and fundamentally.
One thing we talk about so much whenever we talk about the offensive line is the importance of the team gelling together, because they've got to work together. That 5 offensive linemen, it's not just the one running back, it's 5 offensive linemen. In a lot of ways, they've got to be working together, and everyone's got to really be on their P's and Q's, know their assignments, so you don't have someone coming through clean and hitting the quarterback. So with the importance of gelling as a unit, is there a point in fall camp when Frye thinks that they have to have their 5, they've got to have their guys in locked in, ready to go, and so that they can then spend the rest of fall camp working together and beginning that process of gelling together as a unit?
Yeah, you don't want to drag it all the way out, since, like I said, we're getting closer to that. But they'll know and we'll know, and we're getting there where now it's like you start seeing it and you're like, okay, that's it. Now these guys can really roll together. But, I mean, like I said, that we've been rolling the scarlet, the gray, this guy here, this guy there. I still double teaming with the guard. That combo is not going to change. If we're working the 3-tech to the backside, I'm working the 3-tech to the backside, right? Now, yeah, if you have a more skilled player next to you, it's going to help. But at the end of the day, us two have those two, and your technique's got to take you home. So it's not as wild as it might sound or think. But, yeah, as you get closer to game week, you still don't want to be doing the shell game and shuffling as you get into game week. And we won't be. We'll be targeted by then.
Well, Frye is always really, really an interesting interview, and certainly feels like future head coach material when you talk to him about some of this stuff. Someone else who was a really interesting interview is Carson Hinzman. We got a chance to talk to him once in the spring, and then again now on Tuesday this week. Really, really interesting guy to talk to. And this is one of these guys where, you've seen guys on TV and you will see him on TV this fall. But, let you hear a little bit about some of these guys, get to know these guys a little bit. So we're going to let you hear from Hinzman here. And there's a bunch. I was planning on just doing one or two. And then as I was going through these clips, it was like, yeah, okay, you probably want to hear from that. Okay, you probably want to hear from that. So as always, these offensive line guys, pretty good talkers. Let's start with Carson Hinzman and some of the challenges of the transition from going from high school to college.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with transition and kind of growing up from high school. Like a lot of people think they know how hard they can go, or think they know how hard like that needs to be gone. But when you come up to a level like this and a place like this, like it's an exponential like gap. So to be able to understand and learn like what it takes to be, kind of one of the guys around here, like the real guys around here. You really got to buckle down and learn like how to be physical, how to be mentally tough, just as well as physically tough. So been working on both, like that mental and physical aspect to kind of get that toughness, get that physicality. My feet in the ground was a big one and two, and just work to compete for this year.
Once Hinzman made that high school to college transition, then he had to make the transition to center. That is not a spot where he had played at all until this spring at Ohio State. So are things maybe slowing down for him a little bit now at center?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like the first day, I remember my first scrimmage, I lined up and I looked across because Coach Frye was like, well, we're just going to baptize you by fire. So he's like, I'll just start today. I was like, all right. And I went in there. I looked across the line. I saw Mike Hall on my left and Ty Hamilton on my right. And I was like, oh, this is a little bit different. I snapped the ball straight over Kyle's head. I was like, dang. But, yeah, just, I mean, it's a lot of growth that like had to come with it, and yeah, just development overall.
Going against some of those Ohio State defensive linemen, especially those interior defensive linemen, I think that's going to be a challenge for a lot of centers this fall. So what has that process been like for Hinzman to get to the point where now he's competitive against those types of guys and not just totally overwhelmed? Yeah,
and learning every day has really helped. I mean, I know Coach Philbin has helped me with that a lot, learning, different techniques to work. I mean, it all kind of goes down to your own techniques, not to really play off them, because if you play off them, you're going to be a half second late. And as a center, you're already a half second late because you don't have your right hand. And so learning to kind of play within my own legs, within my own body, learning different techniques that I can really stick to and kind of develop within like my playing and how to block these guys because they're extremely high caliber. Has been exponential in my growth. So, yeah, just kind of hammering down the fundamentals for the most part.
You may have heard him mention Coach Philbin earlier. That is Joe Philbin. He's the former Miami Dolphins head coach who's working with the offensive side of the ball right now as an analyst. So what has Hinzman learned from Philbin? He had a couple answers here you're going to be hearing back to back.
Coach Philbin, man, I absolutely phenomenal coach. I mean, I love working with him. He's taught me so much in the short period of time he's been here. I love kind of talking to him. He's just kind of like, he'll give you those little like tidbits and side bits. You're going through the drill, going through the play, be like, hey, why don't you try to throw this in there? Like a few days ago, he goes, hey, go home and watch Muhammad Ali videos because he wanted me to learn how to punch and keep guys off me, and that's one of the big things I've been working on. So, yeah, he's super like wise in his teachings and everything like that. So I'd love to have him around. I really hope he doesn't leave too quick. He was here for a while, but no, he's a great addition. I really like the way he kind of teaches, kind of like those little side bits he'll kind of tell you. And obviously, like, you can, like, at just him talking, you can feel his, like, depth and wise just because, like, I mean, he's won a Super Bowl ring. He's been to the top where very, very few guys, even the great ones, have been. So, he knows what he's talking about. And it's kind of funny. You'd be like, hey, why don't you go try this? Like, super, like, off rip or something like that. You'd be like, all right. And it'll work immediately. You're like, oh, okay. Like, just add that one to the bag. But, yeah, super great coach, and, yeah, glad we have him.
Earlier you heard Hinzman talk about the fact that Philbin wanted him to watch Muhammad Ali videos. And I think a lot of people kind of cocked their head and thought, Muhammad Ali, that's interesting. So what was Philbin hoping that Hinzman learned from watching those Muhammad Ali videos?
See, that's what I said. I was like, I don't know what I'm looking. He's like, I just want you to learn how he kind of, like, he's quick on his feet and how he, like, extends his extension on his punches, because as a center, you need your offhand to extend to kind of get those guys off you, especially, well, I didn't on the last play today. Mike grounded me a little bit. That'll be when we talk about it later. I gotta get a little more extension on my punch. That's a big thing I've been working on this offseason as well. But kind of how Muhammad will be able to extend so fast and be able to get those guys off you, so I have a little bit more room to work, has been really, really good.
As we mentioned earlier, coming out of the spring, the offensive line was probably the single biggest question on this year's team. So how far has that line come since spring?
I think it's exponentially different. I think our offensive line now, in terms of camp-wise, is exceeding expectations even that we would have had last year. And I think that people tend to doubt the O-line first in a lot of situations, which is normal. I understand that. However, I think the work we've put in and the guys we've been able to develop in such a short period of time, I think we're going to be extremely solid.
Listening to some of these guys talk, coaches, players, Ryan Day earlier in the week, it feels like there's a surprising level of confidence about the offensive line that you're hearing from these guys. So where is that coming from?
I would say just development. I mean, we've had such a short period of time just together, those new guys kind of filling spots. And I think that time, we just need a little bit of time. And I think that going into this offseason and what we've been able to put on the field recently, we've been more than good enough, if not great. And I wouldn't be surprised if we try to take a run at the Joe Moore, and that's our goal.
Hinzman is obviously not a finished product. This would be his first year starting, really his first year as a center overall, so obviously there's still work to do. What is Hinzman still working on?
Right now, I've been kind of known as a guy that's kind of like bugs people. It's kind of a pest. Just try to stay on them, try to keep driving my feet, just trying to shoot my offhand. I've been learning a lot more to play my legs. That's been really good, but I have a long way to go. Every really aspect of my game's got to get a little bit better. My stretching has got a little bit better. I was talking about my offhand earlier and my legs. Be able to play with a base, because coming from a triple option team, you're on your toes. You pass maybe once a game. I mean, the year we went to state, we passed 12 times a year. So it's our passing tips were just run block, just not as far. So I was like, kind of that transition. Like I've been able to run, obviously being from that culture, but to be able to really play my legs, play my feet, I got a long way to go, but excited to work on it.
In addition to some of the physical skills, there is a very big mental piece of the game as well as a center. Josh Frye talked about how Hinzman was a very, very smart guy. You hear him talked about very similarly to how Luke Whippler got talked about in previous years. So when you talk about that mental side of the game, how much has Hinzman come along in that department?
Exponentially. I mean, I remember my first scrimmage when I first started learning center. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I was like we're gonna run this way and we're gonna run this way, and that's all we got. But now to be able to diagnose a defense and to be able to kind of see tendencies, like to see if a backer can't hold his water, so we're thinking, we might see some motion, so we're gonna hand press through here, might get him, pick him up. A lot of film. Coach Day always says he wants us to be the smartest team as long as the toughest team, or as well as the toughest team. And so a lot of film, a lot of talking with Coach Mike, a lot of talking with the guards and seeing what kind of they like and what they've kind of been through to see what kind of calls they like as well. Because it's different with different guys, like what their knowledge is. So sometimes we'll be like, hey, we're going here, but I want to make sure we know what else is going on here, and be able to not only play your position but play the game and get that kind of wider band of picture has been super, super helpful for me. And like I said, I have a long way to go. I remember Luke last year said, compared to my sophomore year, I didn't even know what I was doing, and he knew a lot. Talking to him, he always knew a lot. So excited to see the depth of knowledge I get to understand as we keep rolling.
Well, hope you guys enjoyed that. That was offensive line. Again, always one of the more interesting position groups to hear about. So we'll get hope you got your little dose of offensive line there. If you want to hear more, Tony Gerderman and I did a live show on the Buckeye Weekly podcast feed immediately after those interviews on Tuesday afternoon. So you can find that on the Buckeye Weekly feed or on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. And good news, we're going to be doing another live show, we think, probably, after interviews with tight ends coming up on Wednesday. That should be around noon. So make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. And you're also subscribed to all of our podcasts. Just whatever podcast platform you like, we will be there. Just search Buckeye Huddle, subscribe to all of those. Big Meat Kickoff, Buckeye Weekly, Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning, Skull Session Podcast, you name it, we're there. Subscribe to them all. We also would appreciate a 5-star rating and review. If you have time to do that, we appreciate that. It only takes a minute, and it does help other folks find these shows as we are heading into the time of year when people are maybe looking for a new Ohio State podcast or two to listen to. We would appreciate your help with that. So that will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.